Most people plan what they're going to spend on vacation. Almost nobody plans what they're going to owe on September 1st, and that number, the one you haven't calculated yet, is the only one that actually determines whether this trip was worth it. Here is what September 1st looks like for the average American taking a summer trip in 2026. The average trip costs $4,069. That's up 17% from last year, confirmed by Deloitte's survey of over 4,000 Americans in April. Put that on a credit card at the current national average of 21% APR. Don't pay it off with the first statement, which 74% of travelers won't, and you are not looking at a $4,069 bill. You are looking at the opening payment of a debt that, on minimum payments, takes over 10 years to clear and costs more in interest than the trip itself.
Let's look at the data.
This
Plan
video
your
is
dream
not
vacation
about telling you
without
not to
breaking
go.
the bank.
You're going. I know that. This is about building the one framework that makes sure September doesn't destroy you. Last June, Marcus was 28 years old, living in Nashville, making $46,000 a year, take home around $3,100 a month after taxes and his basic 401k contribution. His friend group started a group chat in May. Cancun, late July, 7 nights. The Google Doc came through with the cost breakdown: $380 for flights, $520 for a 5-night all-inclusive resort, $150 for everything else. Total quoted, $1,050 per person. Marcus typed in the group chat. Took him about 20 minutes. Here's what I want you to notice about that decision.
Debt is
It wasn't impulsive. He thought about it. He looked at his bank account, saw $640 in there, and told himself the story that millions of people tell themselves every single summer: I'll put it on the card and pay it off when I get back. He was not planning to go into debt. He was not reckless. He just wasn't calculating what when I get back actually costs in dollars. Most summer finance content on YouTube is designed for one of two people. Person A saved for this trip 6 months in advance and has a $4,500 sinking fund in a high-yield account. Person B has 500,000 Chase points and a spreadsheet tracking transfer partner valuations. I am not talking to either of those people today. I am talking to Marcus. And to the 29% of Americans who, according to Bankrate's 2026 survey, plan to go into debt for their summer trip. The ones who are in that group chat right now. The ones who said yes because the social cost of saying no felt higher than the financial cost of the interest rate. In the next 17 minutes, I'm going to build the September 1st number with you, live, and show you the framework that contains it before you ever click confirm. Here is the one concept that everything in this framework runs on. The trip cost and the trip debt are two completely different numbers, and almost everyone, including Marcus, only plans for the first one. Let me show you this through Marcus, not beside him. Marcus thought his trip cost $1,050. That was the Google Doc number. But the flights went on the card $380. Resort deposit $520. That's $900 before he even packs a bag. In destination, the all-inclusive didn't cover the premium cocktail bar. 2 last-minute group excursions cost him $180. His share of a nicer group dinner on night 3 was $65. Airport transport, tips, a few things no one budgeted for. His actual in-trip spend, $1,295, 23% over the quoted number. Coming home, $3,495 on his card. He had $640 in savings. Wait, here's why that 23% overage matters in a way nobody says out loud. It was not a failure of discipline. It is a structural feature of group travel. When you are physically inside an experience, surrounded by people you care about, in a different city, in vacation mode, every incremental spending decision feels social, not financial. The $45 excursion is nothing in the context of a $1,000 trip. The round of drinks is connection. The nicer dinner is just this once. You are not making financial decisions in destination. You are making social decisions that have financial consequences you only see on September 1st. This is why the September 1st number has to be built before the trip. Not during, not after, before. The concept is called pre-fund or isolate. Those are your only two paths if you are taking a trip you cannot fully cover in cash. Path 1. Pre-fund. You have at least 50% of the real trip cost in savings before you book anything, not 50% of the Google Doc number. 50% of what you will actually spend, and that means you take the quoted number and add 20%, because everyone goes 20% over, reliably. Path 2. Isolate. You cannot pre-fund that much, you're going anyway. Fine. You put the trip on one dedicated card only, you calculate your debt ceiling before you leave, you schedule an automated aggressive payment that starts the month you return, and that card touches nothing else during payoff. Those are the two options. There is no third option called figure it out when I get back. Because figure it out when I get back is the financial system that left 35% of last summer's travelers still carrying their 2025 vacation balance into this year, now looking at a second trip on top of it. You might be thinking, if you can't afford it, shouldn't you just not go? I used to tell people exactly that. Genuinely. Turns out, for the $40,000 to $55,000 earner in 2026, that's actually the wrong frame. Here's why. Close. The pre-fund or isolate concept is only the first layer. Because what happens to Marcus's specific numbers in September, that's where this gets uncomfortable. And it's the part every other video on this topic leaves out. Remember Marcus's $1,050 trip? Here's what September 1st actually looked like. He came home to $3,495 on his Chase card. He had $640 in savings. 2 weeks after Cancun, his car needed $410 in repairs. He made the $95 minimum payment in August. The $95 minimum payment in September. He kept telling himself a bigger payment was coming next month. His card balance on January 1st, $3,182. After 5 months of payments totaling $475. He paid off $313 of principal. He gave the bank $162 in interest on a trip that was already a memory. Here is the number nobody in this space puts on screen. On minimum payments, Marcus pays off this trip in October of 2037. He will pay $3,940 in interest alone. The total cost of a Cancun vacation he quoted at $1,050 by the time the card is zero is $7,435. Drop one. Shocking statistic, but that's still not the full number. Here's what nobody calculates. The $3,495 Marcus spent on Cancun, if he had invested that in a basic index fund at 7% annual return instead of putting it on a card, by October 2037, that money would be worth approximately $8,300. So the real September 1st number is not $3,495. It's not even $7,435. When you add the wealth Marcus did not build while spending 11 years paying down vacation interest, the economic cost of that trip is close to $15,700. I want to be completely clear here. Marcus is not a cautionary extreme. Marcus is the average case. He is the median response pattern, not an outlier. Drop 2. The thing other channels skip. Wait. Here's why the travel hacking framework you've seen everywhere, the Graham Stephan framework, the Brian Kelly framework, is the right advice for the wrong person. And nobody says this out loud. Travel hacking works brilliantly when two things are true simultaneously. Number one, you pay the balance in full every single month. Otherwise, the average APR of 21%. And for new card offers in 2026, that average is 23.79%, destroys every reward point you earned within the first 2 billing cycles. You are not earning 3 times on travel, you are paying the bank 21% on the full balance. A 3% reward rate against a 21% APR is negative 18% net. Every month you carry the balance. Number 2, you have the cash before you book. Points reduce the price. They do not fund the trip. If you don't have the money, the card is not a travel hack. It is a personal loan at 21% with a bonus airline mile attached. I have watched people walk through airport lounges with Chase Sapphire Reserve cards, feeling financially sophisticated, carrying a $6,000 balance at 22% APR. That card costs them $110 per month in interest before they buy a single drink at the lounge. The points aren't free. They're a marketing product designed to make debt feel aspirational. Here's what I actually think is happening across the entire travel finance space. These frameworks were built for and by people who have liquidity. They are being consumed by people who don't. And nobody is naming that gap directly. If you're still watching, you already think differently about money than most people around you. The fact that you're running this math before booking, not after landing, that's the whole ballgame. Drop 3. Counterintuitive truth. Here is the one data point that will break your assumptions about this topic. Only 7% of Americans with credit card debt cite vacation and entertainment as the primary cause. 7%. Which means the vacation is not creating the debt crisis. The vacation is the tipping point that reveals it. The actual primary cause is that 33% of people are already using their credit cards to cover groceries, childcare, and utilities. The baseline is fragile before the trip. The trip does not create the problem. The trip exposes it, pushes an already stressed balance past the point of manageable recovery. And then September comes. And suddenly you're not paying for rent and food and utilities. You're paying for rent, food, utilities, and Cancun. Simultaneously. For 11 years. I used to frame summer debt as a travel spending problem. That was wrong. It is a structural baseline problem that travel makes visible. Here's the statement I want you to push back on in the comments. Taking a vacation you cannot fully afford is not a failure of discipline. It is a completely rational psychological response to a 2026 economy where the median millennial has $300 in emergency savings. Home ownership is statistically out of reach before age 35. And every social signal you receive tells you your value is measured by whether you showed up. I am not endorsing the debt. I am naming what's driving it. The math says it's wrong. The psychology says it's inevitable. Neither of those facts go away without a framework, which is what I'm about to give you. This is where it gets uncomfortable. If you have ever opened a credit card app the Tuesday after a vacation, and the balance was higher than you expected because you forgot the parking and the Uber surge and the dinner that wasn't that bad, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. That stomach drop is not a personal failure. That is 74% of American summer travelers on the same Tuesday in August seeing the same number. And 35% of them are still seeing a version of that number a full year later right now as they look at this summer's group chat. You are not alone in this. But you can be different from it. And the difference is built before you book, not after you land. Here's what I think nobody is saying about this, and what the data from 3 institutions tells you when you read them together. The Federal Reserve shows record APRs. Deloitte shows record per-trip spend with record low travel participation. NerdWallet shows 35% of people still carrying last year's vacation debt into this summer. Put those 3 things together, and the picture is not Americans are irresponsible spenders. The picture is a structurally squeezed demographic is making socially rational decisions in a financially irrational environment. They are understructuring, not overspending. The spending makes psychological sense. The absence of a pre-trip framework is the actual failure point. My prediction, by October 15th, 2026, when the Philadelphia Fed releases Q3 credit data, we will see the sharpest post-summer delinquency spike in this metric since 2024. The year minimum payment-only accounts hit a 12-year series high in Q3. This will be reported as a consumer stress story. It is actually a no framework story. Drop 4, number payoff moment, means one more drop. Because BNPL just changed the landscape in a way almost no one is covering. 17% of 2026 summer travelers plan to use buy now, pay later services. Klarna, Affirm, for their travel expenses. Klarna reported a 50% year-over-year jump in travel bookings. Affirm says travel-related volume crossed $1 billion. Here's what people don't understand about BNPL. It has zero interest optics that can convert to retroactive high-interest debt if you miss one payment. Affirm now reports to credit bureaus. And cash advance APRs, 13% of summer travelers plan to use them, start accruing at 24.48% immediately. No grace period. The person who avoided putting the trip on a credit card may have 3 simultaneous BNPL installment plans. One for flights, one for the Airbnb, one for the concert tickets, each auto-billing on a different date. Each one a missed payment away from a credit hit. Different instrument. Same spiral. Worse terms. This is where it gets uncomfortable, because the framework is 3 steps, and 2 of them happen before you pack. Step 1. Build your September 1st number before you book anything. Here's the formula. Write this down. Take the quoted trip cost. Add 20%. That is your real trip cost. That 20% is not a margin of error. It is the structural average overage for every in-destination social decision you will make in real time. Then ask, how much of that real number can I cover in cash before I leave? Not from my credit card, from my actual checking or savings account. Whatever remains after your cash coverage, that number is your debt ceiling, not your budget, your ceiling, the maximum liability you are authorizing on September 1st. For Marcus, real trip cost was $1,260, $1,050 plus 20%. Cash, $640. Debt ceiling, $620. His actual September 1st debt, $3,495. He never ran the formula. He didn't know the ceiling existed. Here's what changes when you run the formula first. $620 at 21% APR, paid at $155 per month. 4 months. Done by October. Total interest, $27. Total cost of the trip, $1,287. That is the difference between the framework and the drift. Step 2. The one-card isolation rule. If you're financing any part of this trip, it goes on one card only. Not your everyday card. Not your Amazon card. One card used for this trip only, with every other spend stripped from it during payoff. Here's what I actually think is the most important reason this works. And it has nothing to do with math. When vacation debt mingles with your regular card balance, it becomes psychologically invisible. You stop seeing Cancun, you start seeing my credit card balance, a faceless monster you feel vaguely guilty about without a plan to attack. Naming the debt and isolating it is the first act of controlling it, not just tracking it. If Marcus had opened a 0% intro APR card specifically for the trip, put $620 on it, and set a $155 per month autopay, he would have paid zero interest. Total interest on the trip, $0. Instead, he gave the bank $162 in month 1 alone. Step 3. Name the payoff months before you board the plane. Before you leave, you open your calendar. You write down 3 months. August, September, October. Those are your payoff months. You know before you go that those months carry a fixed financial obligation. You build those payments into your budget before departure. You are not figuring it out when you land. The trap, and this is the one that silently kills people, is treating the payoff as something you'll handle with extra money this fall. There is no extra money in the fall. There is rent. There is the holiday spending cycle starting in October. There is life. Name the months before you leave. Automate the payment. This is the only system that works because it removes the decision from a future version of yourself who will be too tired to make it. One number to take from this video: your debt ceiling. Quoted cost plus 20% minus your available cash. Calculate it tonight. Write it on your phone. It is the only number that separates a $1,287 trip from a $7,435 one. Marcus returns here. By the time Marcus understood this framework, it was February, 9 months after Cancun. Still at $2,800 on the card. The framework didn't save that trip, but it saved every single one after it. We started with one question. Not how much is this trip going to cost? That's the Google Doc question. The question was, what am I going to owe on September 1st? Those are not the same question. They never were. The first is what the itinerary tells you. The second is what life actually charges you for not doing the math first. You now know the difference. And if you run those 3 steps, real cost, debt ceiling, isolated card, named payoff months, before you ever click confirm, you walk into that trip knowing exactly what September looks like. Not hoping it works out. Knowing. Most people watching this video won't run those steps. They'll watch it, feel the clarity for 20 minutes, and then book the trip the same way they always have. That's fine. That's their September. Yours is different now. 2 years later, Marcus has a ritual. Someone sends the Google Doc. Marcus opens it, adds 20%, subtracts his cash, looks at the remainder. If the remainder is under $800, he goes, isolated card, 3-month autopay, done. If it's over $800, he has a direct conversation with the group about the real costs before committing. He doesn't decline trips. He structures them. His current card balance, 0. His savings account, $4,800, built in 22 months through $200 per month contributions that happened because he was not in emergency payoff mode every single autumn. One framework, compounded over 2 years. Here's what this video is actually about, and you'll only fully see it now that you've watched to the end. The September 1st number is not a budgeting concept. It's a clarity tool. It forces you to see, before the excitement of booking floods your judgment, what you are actually committing to. People who run this math before they click confirm don't just take better vacations. They make better financial decisions across everything because they're trained to calculate consequences before they're emotionally inside them. That is not a personality type. It is a skill. And you have it now. If you're in a group chat right now, looking at a trip that feels just slightly out of reach, this changes what the next 6 months of your financial life looks like. Not whether you go, how you go, and what September looks like when you get back. Calculate your September 1st number right now. Quoted trip cost plus 20% minus whatever cash you have available. Drop that number in the comments. I read every single one. And if the number surprises you, that's the point of the exercise. If this reframed how you think about vacation debt, hit like. It tells me to make more of these, and it tells the algorithm this is worth putting in front of people who need it.